going to call this meeting to order. Do I have any disclosures of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none. Items not listed on the agenda? None. Announcements. Where did we start last week? Okay. Councillor Malloy.
Great, thanks, Mayor O'Connor. Just a couple things. I know I'll only name a few things. Everybody's been so busy. There was a great show at the arena on the weekend. That was the Women's Wellness Market was on there. Also, the Legion Garage Sale. I don't know if anybody got to that or not, but it was great. They had all kinds of stuff there. I picked up all kinds of stuff for my grandkids, so it was pretty good.
Do you have room in your garage for it?
We're getting a little full. Just a couple of things to mention this week is the Eudora-Leachdale Lions canoe run. So that starts on the Zephyr Road and runs north. I know it because a couple of years ago we got in a canoe and we flipped it about 10 feet into it, so I remember it really well. Anyway, and of course the Rotary Club has their scrap metal day this weekend coming too. There's so many things, I only picked a few. Anyway.
Okay. Councillor Hyatt.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. Good morning, everyone. Just a couple of things to add to what Councillor Malloy has said. We had a meeting with staff, Councillor Beach and myself, to talk about, there's a report on the agenda today, so I won't get into the details of it, but we're talking about the stone sculpture. Anyway, we had a meeting that was very productive with staff last week, so we'll bring that up again under the regular business. We also had the Tri-Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting here in this very room last Thursday evening with Brock and Scugog. Again, a very productive meeting. Always something good comes out of this. We share ideas and it benefits all three communities. And last but not least, we had the hospital golf tournament last Friday. It was the first year that we'd never suffered frostbite, so it was unfortunately Councillor Malloy couldn't make it that day, but he missed out on a good one, and I didn't have to carry Councillor Brian around the course as we usually do, so it was a good day had by all, and I don't know how much money they raised. Did you hear, Fred, how much? No? But it was substantial anyway. It was sold out, and it's a great community event. So thank you, Mayor O'Connor.
Great community event for a great facility in our municipality. Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Just a few things. Goodwood Hall Board, we hosted Neighborhood Watch. Subject was human trafficking, which we had reported that there had been 2 right here in Uxbridge that had occurred, and information about separating facts and fiction about fraud, scams, and awareness. It was really good. Participation was really good as feedback. The residents that came out were really pleased that they had learned so much from this. It was a great initiative. And also, just to promote a little bit, Experience, the Great Canadian Experience. Our proceeds this year go to Jumpstart, so I really encourage everybody to come out, and you will see me on stage if you can recognize me. Anyways, please come out and support that. And on May the 6th, Dimba is having pancakes in the forest, and our MS Walk on Sunday, May 7th. Please support. Thank you.
Councillor Brian?
Thank you. When you go at the end of the line, you don't have much left, eh? Just one quick thing. McHappy Day is Wednesday, so please go to McDonald's and help support. I believe it's Big Brothers Big Sisters this year is the cause. That's all.
Councillor Bellinger?
Thank you, Your Worship, and good morning to everyone. First off, accolades to the people responsible for this tourist guide in Uxbridge. A job well done. Make sure you pick one up. Last Wednesday, which just happened to be the mayor's birthday, we were at the United Church. It was the talent show for handicapped people. And I'm telling you, the real Elvis come out on the stage, and I was really impressed with what these people can do with limited ability. It was just amazing. And I would mention to you that on that Sunday is probably the 20th MS Walk. It leaves the high school at 9:30 in the morning. If you wanna take the short route, it's in pink signs, it's 5 kilometers, that brings you back to the high school. Or if you're really ambitious, you can take the 10-kilometer walk, which will be posted with green signs, and that'll bring you back to the high school, and then they will feed you. So that's the MS Walk this Sunday, April the 7th.
Thank you. Councillor Barton?
Yes, lots going on this time of year, but Energy Conservation Committee had an event at the arena on Saturday, and, you know, they gave away LED light bulbs, and there was numerous vendors talking about all the different things you can do to be green, so energy audits, things like that. Seemed like a great event. And then I went to a high-speed internet meeting that was put on by Jane Philpott, our Minister of Health, in Stouffville, just to make sure that we weren't missing anything here in Uxbridge. And they had people from the federal government, the province, York Region, and Stouffville that all spoke and talked about everything from their own perspectives. And then the thing that was really interesting was ViaNet, who we've talked a lot about in this council chambers. They were the only ISP that were spoken about, and everyone raved about what they've done for Stouffville for individual communities. So it was just great to see. And then the Lions Club, the Canoeathon, are you going to do it, Pat, or no? I was going to do it, but I just, for some reason, I just changed my mind. I don't know why. So I'm doing that one, and then after that, DMBA have an open house at Durham Forest that's always very, very well attended. They get, you know, kids programs and a bunch of different bike shops. You can try out super expensive bikes and kind of see everything that the forest has.
Okay, as you can tell, it's been a busy week, and the month of May and the month of June on my calendar are just about full now. So I think we are all going to be going in more than one direction for a little while anyway. It's my honor on behalf of council this morning to recognize 3 of our residents that have gone beyond the call of duty to save lives. And it was picked up. I didn't know anything about it until I read the Toronto Star. But as soon as I read it, I said to staff here and to councillors, we have to bring you in to recognize you as well as residents of our community. So I'm going to ask that Vince and Laura and Reese come forward. to, just tell us quickly what, happened the day that, you, were able to save two people's lives?
Okay. What happened is we were getting all the kids we were on the beach teaching them paddle strokes and how to like carry their canoes and enter their canoes and stuff like that, and just like basic knowledge. And then my dad, he saw on the other side of the lake there was like thrashing in the water, and the shine of like the bottom of a boat looked like it was there. So he got Shane, one of the other trip leaders, to go over in his kayak and check out what was going on. He just like, and then when he got like halfway there, he signaled Shane and I over. Shane's another trip leader, and we canoed over to help out. And so what happened was there was a couple who had flipped in their boat, and the big lake goes into like a river, and it's pretty fast moving water. So they were thrashing to keep themselves up because they didn't have their life jackets, and they're like being weighed down by their wet clothes. And so we got over and we had to pry up the canoe because of the suction in the water, and it took all three of us to get it out. And so we eventually got it out, emptied it from all the water, and we had them on the shore while Shane watched them while Dan and I retrieved all their stuff that had like gone down river, like their life jackets and like shoes and stuff like that. And so we got them back in their canoe, made sure they had their paddles and their life jackets on, and we watched and we pointed them to shore, made sure they were going the right way, and we watched them as they went, just in case they flipped over again. So yeah.
So that's a pretty amazing story, and Reese, I think that you've got two people that will be internally thankful to you for the heroics of you and your friends that day. And it's pretty amazing. You're a young man, and you kept your head, and that's one of the big things today. Is some people don't have the capacity to do that. They get flustered themselves, and then that can cause more problems. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And what a wonderful story.
Thanks.
We'll ask Vince, the father, now. Vince has been in 2 incidents where he has changed people's lives and given them a life. And perhaps, Vince, you can explain what happened in those 2 cases.
Thank you, Your Worship. My wife and I run the Toronto Recreational Out-Tripping Outreach Program, which short is called TROOP. We've been running this for about 10 years through a program called Pro-Action Cops and Kids with the Toronto Police Service. They not only work with Toronto, but York and Peel and Durham as well. And they offer an opportunity for police officers to get involved with youth. And then the youth have an opportunity to see police in a bit of a different light. Through this program, we've been involving kids in domestic violence shelters, wards of Children's Aid, justice-involved youth, and kids that are suffering from some vulnerable circumstance in their life. And we get them away on these trips. Reese, by virtue of being our son, has been able to be one of our assistant trip leaders for many years, and has taken all his canoe training and certifications to allow him to be one of our trip leaders. And we were lucky to have him on that particular trip. Just the week before, we'd also been involved in another rescue with 2 11-year-old boys that had been missing for about 3 hours, and they were seen off in a distance by a fellow on the shoreline with binoculars, and they were thrashing about in the water as well, where they were too far for us to see. And he alerted my wife. My wife got the officers involved in the program to paddle out and locate those 2 children. So the park staff have been searching for them for hours. So it was just it was a great opportunity for us having our program there and instructing our own kids in how to be safe in the water, and we were actually practicing rescues when these 2 incidents took place. So it was just a great opportunity for us. But thank you very much for your acknowledgement.
Thank you for the work that you're doing with some of the most vulnerable kids that we have. And again, you know, those kids have got a second chance of life, which we can contribute to you. So thank you for that. Laura. I don't know if there's anything left.
Actually, I was an ambulance attendant here before I became a police officer, so I worked at Uxbridge Cottage Hospital, and then I used to do calls with police officers and thought I could maybe do that too, so I ended up going to Toronto Police. But I do remember working here. That would be 33 years ago. But the program is wonderful, and I got involved, Vince was running the program, and I worked in domestic violence, so I was working with kids in shelters, and originally the program was a lot of justice-involved youth, which we still take, but we started a focus on victims of crime, and children in domestic violence shelters who didn't have anything else to do in the summer. So those were the years when we were doing 30 to 40 kids on a trip, 7 trips a summer. But we're retiring August 1st, and we need to hand our program over, but we're going to keep it alive. And it is life-changing for these kids. It gives them a window to a world that's different from the hell they live in Toronto, and we see it work time and time again. But we have 5 children between us, and all the kids have to be involved. It's a lot of work, but they've all packed out and cleaned up and dried tents, and Reese is the youngest participant, but he works really hard, and he's been a brilliant leader out there for us and makes it easier for us to run the trips. His brother did the trips for 5 years and became a Toronto police officer, so now he's in 14 Division. But his competencies for passing the interview came from doing troop, from working with kids and officers and social workers and learning to be patient and to understand where people were coming from, and it's made him a brilliant officer, even as a young officer. So, great program. It gave us all pretty spectacular opportunities, and we're kind of sorry to retire, but we're going to do it retired anyway. We're going to help the people that are running it, because we don't want it to end. And there you go.
Well, thank you, and I understood that you were an ambulance driver and that Uxbridge was your home base, so that's great. How am I going to do this? So if the 3 of you would just like to go up in the front, and I have 3 certificates that I would like to give you, and we're going to start off with the most important one, and that's Reese. And Reese, your certificate states the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Uxbridge in the Regional Municipality of Durham, in recognition of your selfless actions, save others in commendation for your brave conduct. On behalf of the Township of Uxbridge, I wish to congratulate you on receiving a Police Services Award and also to present you with a certificate of commendation from the Township of Uxbridge. To be the only civilian recipient of the Police Service Award is quite an honor. Your selflessness and quick thinking in the rescue of 2 canoeists in difficulty in Algonquin Park was a true act of courage and compassion. Your leadership, bravery, selflessness, and kindness epitomizes a true Uxbridge resident. My best wishes and heartfelt thanks to you. Now, if you would just gain a few pounds, you could probably wear your dad's uniform, right? The next one is for Laura, and it says, on behalf of the Township of Uxbridge, I wish to congratulate you on receiving a Police Service Award and also to present you with this certificate of commendation from the Township of Uxbridge. We read of your vigilance on a youth canoeing trip to identify an emergency and coordinate the saving to 2 young swimmers who were in distress. I'm sure the parents of those children are eternally grateful that you were there that day. Your leadership, courage, and selfless actions to help others epitomizes a true Uxbridge resident. My best wishes and heartfelt thank you. Now, Dad, but it doesn't say that. On behalf of the Township of Uxbridge, I wish to congratulate you on receiving a Police Services Award and also to present you with a certificate of commendation from the Township of Uxbridge. We read with pride of your role in saving the lives of 4 people, 2 of them children, in 2 separate incidents when you were leading a program in Algonquin Park. Your dedication to others is commendable. Not only do you volunteer to lead a youth group program, but you are the kind of person to take actions for others without hesitation. Your qualities of bravery, quick thinking, selflessness, and kindness epitomizes a true Uxbridge resident. My best wishes and heartfelt thank you. Not often we have the privilege and the honor to recognize three of our residents like that, so that was special this morning. Our first delegation is Aaron Ferguson, and Aaron is here to speak to us about the termination of a planned sidewalk in Bud Doucette Court. Come forward, please, Aaron, and if you wouldn't mind speaking into the mic, or if you wish, you could speak at that one.
Is it all right if I have my my neighbor and colleague come up and join me?
For sure,
Thank you.
for sure.
Greg, you want to?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Pat, still has some in the garage. We have our yard.
Sorry, can you turn on your, and could we also have your name, please?
Craig Miller.
Craig Miller, okay.
I was encouraged to hear that Pat still has some room in his garage, so when we have our garage sale in Bud Doucette Court, I certainly...
Good morning, members of council. I understand that we have about 10 minutes time, is that correct? I have 6 points that I'd like to talk to in regards to the termination of the planned sidewalk. The first one being that the sidewalk is, if it goes forward as planned, is going to impact a number of owners on the street, and the fact that we won't be able to park more than one vehicle in our single lane driveways, which was going to raise some difficulties, as the vast majority of the residents are two-car families. My second point is that the planned sidewalk, if we were to look at a map, and I understand a number of you have driven over to Bud Doucette Court, if we terminate the sidewalk where it exists today, the walk from that sidewalk to the park access corridor is about 48 of my steps. If we cross a quiet court to get to that park access corridor. If you were to carry on via the planned sidewalk, it's about 100 of my steps. I think that human beings, being human, are going to, whether you're 8 years old or whether you're 48 years old, you're going to take the shortest route, and you're going to travel across the quiet court to the park access corridor. You're not going to. The vast majority of residents aren't going to use the sidewalk. So it's not, I don't see it as being a win-lose proposition. I just see it as being a win proposition for the owners of the residents of Bud Doucette Court. Is they're going to be able to extend their driveways, but people are going to, being people, they're going to travel to that park access corridor across the quiet court. My third point is there's very little on-street parking. Because of it being a court and the angled driveways, there could be none for the 14 residents or the 14 homes that are being impacted. There might be no on-street parking for them out in front of their houses. So there isn't going to be a place for people to park their second vehicle. My fourth point is that every resident that has moved in thus far is extremely supportive. They've all signed the petition. Some would have loved to have been here today, but can't. There's not just passive agreement among the residents. Some of them are, have given me their cell phone numbers and they want to find out what's going to happen from the results of this meeting, because it's a big deal to not have a place to park your second vehicle. So it's very important for a lot of the residents of the street. Fifth point would be that our submission will eventually save the town of Uxbridge money. I don't know how much 100 meters or so of sidewalk is going to cost the town, but I know that there's going to be a cost down the road. Without a sidewalk being put in place, you won't have to worry about fixing that sidewalk in 20 years or 15 years or whatever the case happens to be. There won't be any cracking or replacement costs. Sixth, and I understand this is probably the biggest reason, so I'll speak to it the longest. You are worried about the safety of other residents or the residents of the street using the sidewalk and getting to the park safely, which is certainly has to be the foremost concern. I think that having no sidewalk in this particular case, if you were to look at a map of the area, and I have one here if you're interested, is actually safer to not have the sidewalk than it is to have the sidewalk. And here's my reason why. Right now, somebody traveling to the park is going to leave the sidewalk, or have to leave the sidewalk because there wouldn't be a sidewalk, and travel across the street to the park access corridor. If we continue on having a sidewalk, we have 14 driveways that person is going to have to pass by to get to the park access corridor. Those 14 driveways are going to be jammed full of vehicles because there is no on-street parking for those 14 vehicles, or those 14 residents. And a lot of the vehicles are bigger vehicles. People have trucks parked in driveways, and they're going to be parked right up until the sidewalk. As somebody passes by a truck, somebody could be backing out of their driveway and back right into somebody who's using the sidewalk. Crossing the street is safer than having to navigate 14 driveways, and twice the length. So I think safety-wise, it would be actually better off to remove the sidewalk or not carry on with the planned sidewalk than having the sidewalk. Those are my 6 points, and I would hope that you would take them into consideration and terminate the planned sidewalk.
Okay. Questions? Councillor Ryan.
First off, thank you very much for coming in for your presentation. We do have a report from Ben. I'd like to make a motion to bring Ben's report forward. We can take a look at it.
We will if there's no further questions, okay? Is there any questions from Councillor Malloy to the delegation?
Yeah. I just want to, it's sort of, just to clarify. So right now, the sidewalk goes to the end of Block 19, right? Unit 1, is that where it goes to now? I believe that's what the report says, so.
Yes.
And while you're here, I think it is important. It just seems to me that, and I understand your concerns about the lack of parking in your driveways, but it seems to me that we would be directing them to walk across a road, and that's a big concern to me. And I think, as you know, everything these days is about risk management and liabilities, and it would seem to me that if we end a sidewalk there, they have no choice. With a sidewalk, at least they have the option of taking the safe route around, whether or not we consider it safe, but a sidewalk is certainly safer than a road. So I am a bit concerned about the fact that we're directing them to walk across the road, and it's more of to me it's a liability thing and a safety thing, so I'm not so sure I buy the issue about the number of driveways. It may be incumbent on us to provide a sidewalk to make sure they do have a safe way to get to the walkway. That's just sort of where I'm looking at it, but we'll maybe hear more when the report comes.
Yeah, can I address that?
Sure.
Anybody living in, you know, if you have a map there, Pat, I'm not sure, okay, in block 19 or block 18 or block 17 or block 16 wouldn't have to cross a road to get to the park access corridor if there was a sidewalk, if we carry on with the planned sidewalk. However, anybody else in the neighborhood using the park access corridor would already have to cross a road. You know, whether that, if you're coming from, you know, anywhere beyond Coral Creek Crescent, you're gonna have to cross Coral Creek Crescent, which is a much busier street than our very quiet Bud Doucette Court, to get to, so you've already, you know, if you're a 10-year-old kid or what have you, you've already been given permission to, and you have the capacity to cross a much busier road to then cross the much less busier road of Bud Doucette Court. There will only be the residents on the one side of the court. In fact, residents on the opposite side of Bud Doucette Court would have to cross the road to use the sidewalk to get to the park access corridor. There is no sidewalk on their side of the road. So the citizens that we're really impacting are the ones that, you know, the ones who can't use the sidewalk are the ones who don't want the sidewalk. Thank you.
I still had some points to make.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay, as long as Pat speaks, we're all good. What I wanted to say was, you know what, we might have a bit of a compromise on this, and this is something we were talking about earlier. Inasmuch as everybody realizes it's all about the safety, and certainly the sidewalk, in my belief, is that the sidewalk is safer rather than forcing people to cross the street. And Mr. Miller brought in a great picture over in the Brookfield properties where the sidewalk is right up to the end of the road, so you don't have that gap of grass. And I'm wondering if maybe that's not something we could look at as an alternative that would certainly allow us to continue that sidewalk around the top of the circle and yet still allow for the driveways. I think that would be a great compromise to get both sides, I think would work out well. So I'd certainly like to get Mr. Kester's opinion on that as well, whether that's viable or not. But I think that would be a fantastic compromise.
Okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen. What I'll do, oh, sorry. Jeez, not really with it, am I?
It's all good. It's funny, looking at this map, my brother lives in Quaker Village in a court almost identical to this. And they live about where the sidewalk ends, and their best friends for the last 15 years live about where the park access is. So I've seen those kids for most of their lives cross a cul-de-sac exactly like this and play hockey and basketball and all those great things. And I've never ever seen those kids from the time that they were 4 years old going to their best friends' houses to the time that they were 19 now ever use the sidewalk that goes around that cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
So I completely agree that if it's there, no one's ever really going to use it, and the time that people are on it, it's going to be to shovel it.
Yeah,
So I'm with you.
I agree with that 100%. It's twice as long to use the sidewalk. It just doesn't. This is not human nature to you want to get to the park, you don't want to take twice as long to get there.
Yeah. So, but I see both points, but just through my own observation,
yeah,
I see exactly what you've talked about.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's my only point.
We appreciate that. As our organization, the residents, we definitely don't want the sidewalk, but we are supportive of a compromise if we can't. My colleague has a picture of the Fox Trail development. Is that it?
Yeah.
Brookfield. Fox Trail neighborhood, right? Would you like to see the picture so that we know what we're talking about in regards to the sidewalk being up against the curb?
No, I think we understand that.
All right.
Yeah, thanks very much. Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Ben, would you please come forward? Okay. As we've heard, there are a number of places in Uxbridge, Maunder Court, the next one over in Barton subdivision, there's several of them, Quaker Village, we've heard, that don't have, sidewalks. Well, Quaker Village has a sidewalk, but I agree it isn't used. But certainly on Maunder Court, and I can't remember the next one over, is Nation Court, okay, where they don't have sidewalks. Can you, other than the safety, and I understand the safety, can you, tell us why it would be imperative other than, safety reasons?
Safety and liability is the bottom line. If you
So the
want
ones-
if you wanna move the location, I can have our engineers look at it. But there's streetlights, there's water valve boxes, there's all kinds of buried stuff, and the whole street was designed so that the sidewalk really isn't above anything that's a linear asset, like a gas main or a hydro duct or something like that. You don't really want to put the sidewalk above those kind of utilities, because every time that the utility has to replace them or fix them, then they have to dig up the sidewalk. So it's not,
Okay.
there's some thought in the beginning to where this sidewalk needs to go.
Right. Okay, so it's only across Block 19 at this point.
Correct.
It doesn't go right around.
No, correct.
Okay. Questions from, staff, or to staff? Okay, Councillor Malloy and then Councillor Hyatt.
Ben, so this is something, this sidewalk would be paid for by the developer anyway, right? This is not something we're paying for
Correct.
right now, okay. All right. I just wanted to clarify that. And I wanted to point out one thing that's kinda interesting. We've just passed a bylaw that this wouldn't be approved in future, only having one spot in the driveway. So fortunately, we've changed it, but unfortunately, it's left us a little high and dry in this situation. That's all.
Councillor Hyatt?
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. Ben, can I ask you, I know you're not a lawyer, but obviously these design criteria are in place for a reason. By not installing a sidewalk on either side, what liability does that open the township to, or does it?
If somebody gets hurt, then it opens up liability, for sure.
So by not having a sidewalk, we could be liable, is that what
Yeah,
we're
correct.
showing?
In my opinion.
In your opinion? Thank you.
Oh. Yep.
But then, Ben, how do you account for the other side of the road that doesn't have a sidewalk?
Mhm.
It would be the same, I mean, whether you walk from one side or the other side, one side's got a sidewalk, the other side, we would have the same liability, wouldn't we, or would we?
No, because you haven't started anything and ended something midstream, like you said before. You're gonna be forcing the kids to cross the road.
Do already if they're on the other side of the street. They would have to cross the road to get to the sidewalk.
Or walk along the street.
Or they would have to walk along the street, exactly.
Okay, so, getting back to that, why was the sidewalk started and then stopped?
The developer had, he builds these townhouses in blocks. So he built the first block, the people moved in, he did all the lot grading, they wanted their driveways paved, so that part of the sidewalk gets put in, they pave the sidewalk and everything's done, then he moves on to the next block. So it's sort of staged as they finish the construction of the houses.
But most of those houses are finished now.
But that sidewalk was put in at least a year ago.
Okay. Well, you know, if we're gonna get sued, we're gonna get sued, as we all know. I don't understand how we wouldn't get sued, as, I think it was Councillor Malloy brought up. There's a section of this that doesn't have any sidewalks, so the first person is walking along there, they're gonna sue us if something happens. If somebody falls on the sidewalk, they're gonna sue us. And we've got many examples of that. So, I understand in a way, Certainly all those houses on that side of the street have much larger driveways. In fact, some of the longer driveways we have in subdivisions. But when you're coming along the other side, people won't have that kind of space to park in. We have changed our parking bylaw, or our bylaw for vehicles. We now are saying that you have to have 2 vehicles in a driveway. You have to be able to accommodate at least 2 vehicles outside of your garage. Excuse me. So some of this wouldn't have happened today. I guess another question I have, and I don't know whether I need to be asking a lawyer or somebody, if a person, in this case the developer, has in his plans stated that we want the sidewalk, can we ask him to not put in the sidewalk and put in extra trees, do some work in the park? Does anybody have that answer? Or is it because it says sidewalks in there, it can't?
In the past, we've run into situations like this where something, not necessarily a sidewalk, but something has been deleted, or the developer came to council and said, I don't want to do this right now. I'll give you the money and you can do it whenever you want to do it. So we could take the money for the cash equivalent of the sidewalk, if you will.
And we could put it in trees throughout the subdivision?
Put it in whatever you
or
want. You could take the money, or you could sit down with the developer and say, this is what we want instead of the sidewalk. But no matter what you do, you have to amend the agreement.
Right. Well, I'm all in front, all in support of safety, that's for sure. But I think that there's so many of our crescents and our bulbs, is whatever we call them, there's no sidewalks in. I can't see having a sidewalk part way, because we're still leaving 50% of the neighbors, vulnerable to walking on the road. So it's up to you. Councillor Ballinger, and then Councillor Malloy, and then Councillor
Thank you,
Bryan.
Your Worship. I would love to hear the compromise these gentlemen wanted to bring forward, or your Councillor Bryan is going to bring forward. I'd love to hear that.
Sorry, I know Councillor Malloy is next. I already did bring that forward. That was having the sidewalk right to the end. And as Ben said, we can't do that because of the fact that there's buried pipes, there's gas lines, there's whatever there, which I completely get. I thought it was a great compromise, I really did. I guess my next comment is I understand both sides of the coin, and certainly safety is an issue, but I would certainly bring forward a motion that we do terminate the sidewalk and just basically pave the driveways and go from there. So I'm okay with that in my work.
So I'll come back to you in a minute. Councillor Malloy.
I was just going to say, I didn't know the answer was definitive, that we couldn't put the sidewalk closer to the road, but Councillor Bryan suggesting that's done.
Yeah.
That's no longer an option.
We have to move all the utilities, and I don't think we're going to get into that for sure, because that's thousands upon thousands of dollars.
I understand, but what if you did I'm just suggesting something like interlocking brick around there instead of just concrete. I mean, there are still issues here. I agree. Quite frankly, it's a lousy design, I guess, going right to the back to the very beginning, and somehow we got to try to fix it. But we also have some limitations, I guess, to be careful of. That's all.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, Councillor Barton.
Okay, how about a compromise where we, instead of a sidewalk on, where the grass would be, why don't we put in a white line with pedestrians and bikes stenciled into the concrete and make that a bike lane along there? We lose maybe 2 parking spots on the street in that area, as opposed to losing, 14 the other route. So just make it a white line and make that a no parking area along in the cul-de-sac.
That's a good thought, but who's going to police it? And I'd rather have to me, we shouldn't be bringing a sidewalk or a bike lane or, well, a bike lane I understand, but certainly don't put a sidewalk out on the road. You know, that gives kids false security.
Yeah, it just, if there's less parked cars in that cul-de-sac, then it's less obstacles, from my point of view. And there's only 2 parking spots from the diagram that we got in our agenda. It only looks like we'd lose 2 parking spots by doing that.
Why don't we, refer this back to staff with the understanding that we aren't looking for sidewalks, we're looking for alternatives, and I don't like that word anymore, but, alternative facts, that we're looking for other suggestions, okay? And that Councillor, Brian and the roads, director be part of that. And let's come back and see what we can do. We should be sitting down, we should have the developer there as well. Okay? Is that all right with you?
I would just rather stop it now. I would be fine with just saying no sidewalk.
Okay? All right, so put your motion forward.
Make a motion
Okay,
that
well,
we...
don't talk so fast, so you can write it down, and that I understand what you're saying.
I'll put a motion forward that we stop the sidewalk completely, just terminate it, and that'll be it.
Well, no, that shouldn't be it, because I want the money that sidewalk.
Fair enough. Would go for trees or whatever we would like to do, whatever the cost is of
Right,
that. Sure, we can add that to the motion.
That we have dialogue with the developer, for the, money that will be saved to put into trees. Okay? Now, we also have to, address the fact that we do have a sidewalk across Block 19. What are we gonna do with that? The sidewalk is already there. So are we going to take that sidewalk out and sod it?
No, I would suggest we leave it where it is now. It's where it's done, and then going forward past that, we would just put grass or whatever.
So, just a minute, let's look at the aesthetics of that. You've got a sidewalk that's going across Block 19, okay, which has, 2, 4, 6, 8 houses, and then it stops. That to me makes no sense.
But I don't want to rip it up if it's already in. I would be fine with the sidewalk just ending.
Okay, you're gonna have those people coming in. Councillor Barton.
Okay. What if we continue it to about where the X is on our diagram? And have it come out on the road on a level way that you could get a wheelchair or a stroller up without jumping a curb?
Okay, so that X would go into then the, lot 18 into unit 6 and 7?
Well, I'm actually, if the sidewalk came out onto the road on an angle there,
Okay,
and again, in an accessible way.
all right.
We'd have to look at it and draw it out, but
Okay. All right. Yes, sorry.
So could I just, if you don't mind, just wanna speak against the motion. I'm in favor of maybe moving the sidewalk, but I think it's too premature. I gotta tell you, if I'm sitting in Block 19, unit number 8, there's a lot of things to be considered here. I'm gonna say, wait a minute, there's no sidewalk going there, I can only get one car in my driveway, I want the sidewalk out of my driveway. Why would I have it here? I just think there's a lot of questions here that what's the rush? Let's find out what alternatives we do have and what we do need to do. And I am still concerned about the liability. This was the plan that was set, and can we change it? If we can, great, hopefully we can. But I think it's too early to come up with off-the-cuff suggestions at this point in time. I really think that that's a concern, the fact that you started the sidewalk, and if I was in Unit 8, I'd say, I want that sidewalk out, because I want to park 2 cars Just saying, I mean, I'm not
Okay,
against
so
the
there
thought,
is-
but I think there's time. We don't have to do it today. We're not building a sidewalk next week or anything. I think it requires further discussion.
There is a motion there, so I've accepted the motion.
Yep, I was
I
speaking
have a
against it.
mover, yes?
Just a comment in terms of accessibility. I think from the municipality standpoint, in terms of going forward with newer subdivisions and that type of thing, that we try to make areas accessible as much as we can, recognizing that we do have a part of a sidewalk and it does end, and thank you, Councillor Barton, for suggesting that it at least be tapered to the road. But I think you have to look beyond just using the road and the fact that you could have people with mobility issues trying to maneuver through a roadway, and looking at this from perspective of the winters that we get now, where I don't know if this road is going to be assumed by the township or is assumed by the township, or if it's going to be privately dealt with, I don't know. But you can have situations where there could be fairly large banks on the sides of the road. You have, if it's an ice buildup, you have potholes, and our inability is, from a bylaw perspective, to ensure that where we can deal with a sidewalk, we can't deal with a roadway. And, you know, we can go in, we can hire a contractor to clean the sidewalk if the residents abutting it are not. And you have to look at this from an accessibility standpoint too, and it could eliminate a lot of people being able to easily maneuver through an area. Anyway, just a thought.
Okay, I think that Councillor,
Okay, I'm gonna withdraw my motion on this and make another motion that we do indeed take this back to staff and get a
Thank you.
proper ruling on that.
Thank
That's
you.
fair.
Good idea.
I think I suggested that 10 minutes ago. So, I'm glad you came around. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to refer this back to staff. We understand the residents' concerns, and thank you for coming in and sharing them with us. We will now bring in the parties that need to sit around the table and see what compromise we can come up with. Okay, so can we please bring forth report number 2817 on page 84 of your agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Councillor? Your motion?
I'll make the motion to bring it forward.
Thank you. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, so we are dealing with this report in front of us.
And Mayor O'Connor, I just make a motion to table this report to the
Thank
next
you.
committee.
All those in favor? Oh, okay, Councillor,
Oh, sorry,
Okay.
okay.
all right, refer to staff and Councillor Bryan. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you. Going back in our agenda now, to the second delegation, which is, Crystal Matthews and Amanda. Cartner? I was gonna say,
I was wondering.
Come on. Crystal, and who have you got with you, Crystal?
Crooks.
Sorry?
Joe Crooks.
Joe Cook? Thank you. Welcome, Crystal and, Joe, and you're going to speak to us this morning about community living in, Durham North.
So thanks for inviting us here today. We're just
You have to
here-
speak into the
Sure.
mic, okay?
Thanks.
Thanks.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. Thanks for inviting us here today. We're talking about the Ultimate Race. The Ultimate Race this year has been planned for Saturday, June the 10th. And we've tried to base it around the popular TV show, The Ultimate Race. The race is requiring teams to travel on foot throughout Uxbridge to local businesses, primarily on Brock Street, but we also go slightly off of that path. When they get to the businesses, they're asked to complete a challenge at most of the businesses before moving on to their next. And they'll go to about 30 pit stops before going to the finish line. The idea of the event is that it's for people of all ages and all abilities. We try to base the challenges to be family friendly, but we also have teams that are just adults, so it's really for anybody. The purpose of the race is to celebrate the Uxbridge community and all that it has to offer. We like the participants to be able to go to the local businesses, go in and kind of see what they have. And then we can also create more connections for our agency. The vision of our agency is a community where everyone is valued, so to have a community participation event allows people that we support to be out in the community, and we bring community members into an event that we've organized. So registration, the fee for registration this year is $15 for people to participate on their own, or $20 for 2 people, but we've allowed children 5 and under free of charge. And the registration fee includes a delicious barbecue lunch that is prepared by our Community Living Durham North self-advocacy team. And then participants' names will be entered into a draw to win some prizes. We've got swag bags for the first 100 people that pay. So the purpose, the reason that we're holding this event is to raise funds for the United Way of Durham Region and Community Living Durham North Youth Group. So just to give you a little bit of information about the United Way, their mission is to improve lives and build community by engaging individuals and mobilizing collective action. So they provide assistance to shelters and for women and children, counseling for people who need employment, some funding for people who are returning to school, or support for single parents. And then our youth group through Community Living Durham North is for anybody between the ages of 14 to 24, so not just people supported through our organization, but it could be any youth. We alternate between Port Perry and Uxbridge to allow youth in both areas to be able to access the program, but those living in Port Perry could still come to the Uxbridge location. We prepare our schedules 4 months at a time for a youth group, so our next set will go from July through till September. And the activities that are set out at our youth group are based on the wishes of the people that we're supporting. So we have a planning night and allow input from the youth to see events that they would like to see on the calendar. And the funds raised from this Ultimate Race event would be raised to allow the youth to have a March break camp, and also 2 one-week summer camps, one in July and one in August. We're starting our registration at 10:30, and we've, Nadia Torif, she's a Zumba instructor, she was going to do a 15-minute warm-up for us at the beginning of the race. So just to talk a little bit about the challenges, we have a variety of challenges during the race. We've done a lot of the minute-to-win-it style challenges because a lot of people really seem to enjoy those ones. We've also got some word searches, trivia. Last year we had people doing soccer, kind of like a little relay thing. We had a hula hoop challenge at Curves actually, and while people were having their workout in Curves, they really enjoyed having the teams come in and try to hula hoop at the entranceway. Did a few pictures of the race from previous years. Since we're in our 3rd year now, things have changed quite a bit, but this was the beginning of our race in year 1. These are some of the clue cards, and then a couple of our participants here. There's some people getting registered for the race. Last year we started off in Centennial Park, so this was just the kickoff to the beginning of last year's race. The challenge for the soccer relay that I had told you about. There's the hula hoop challenge. Maplebrook Dental came out and they did a speak out challenge. I'm not sure if you guys have played that game, but you put these in, you read a word, and the other people on your team have to try to guess what you're saying. This one was cookie face. You have to start with the cookie on your forehead and kind of wiggle your face and work it down into your mouth without using your hand. Boston Pizza had put that one on for us last year. This one they had to find Penelope the mascot within the store. I don't know if I can do a video clip with this. Can I just click right here? Oh, it's not gonna work on the screen. So it was just, a team was at Presence, and it was them reading, the clue. It was actually, the Standard had videotaped the race in year one, and followed some teams around while they were completing the race. Oh, now this isn't working. So there's Boston Pizza. Maplebrook had their grand opening, so they offered cupcakes for all of the people in the race last year. And then we've committed to holding our race for the second Saturday in June each year going forward, so that people could pre-plan to attend. So next year we're looking at June the 9th for our race.
Thank you very much, Crystal and Joe, for coming forth this morning, and I also want to thank you for the tremendous work that you do with our young people. It's challenging, and also is very gratifying, and the kids have a great time. And I know I visited a few of the homes, and the care and the love that they're getting there is just amazing.
Thank you.
Councillor Bounger.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to the delegation. Great program. I know my daughter and son-in-law are in it. I just trying to understand, with the starting place being at Fireside, and I know where that is, the old co-op property, you're looking to have Church Street parking lot. Is that the headquarters where you're setting up?
So our day program is at 23 Church Street, which is right next door to that parking lot. So we're going to have people start at Firebridge Fireplaces, and our finish line will be at the day program at 23 Church Street.
So it's actually the finish line?
Yes.
The registration's taking place where?
Firebridge Fireplaces.
That's all I wanted to know. I thought you were registering there, they're going to have to go down the Fireside, start there, so now you've answered the question. Thank you.
Okay, further questions? Okay, the request is for the Church Street parking to be used on June the 10th. Councillor Hyatt?
Thank you, Mayor. The reason you're in here is I asked that you come in and give us some more information. And I had suggested last week that, have you considered the front parking lot here? The reason I brought that up is because the Church Street, as you probably know, can be very congested. It's a very, one-way street. You got cars going every which way coming in from the back. Have you considered this?
So this parking lot, the A-Team hot dog cart, they need access to water, the kitchen, utilities, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So we were hoping to have them at our building and to be able to use the parking lot for more of like a fun zone.
I totally get where you're going, is to end up there, but logistically it would make more sense to be possibly in a safer location. And that's why I brought that up. And again, why did you move from Centennial? Was it meeting your requirements, or?
We requested Centennial again for this year, and we were told that there was going to be construction happening in the park, so we couldn't use the park.
Oh, the parking lot, okay.
Yeah.
But that park worked very well.
Yeah,
We opened the back
again, I
end
think
to
it's a great
use.
event, and I'm
Yeah.
kudos to you to do it, but it has to be safe, obviously, right?
Mhm.
So, and especially on a weekend, over there is nuts at the best of times, so I'm trying to find a location that would work best for you guys. Anyway, I'm just putting it out there.
Councillor Beach?
Could it not end where you start? Because it's such a big parking area.
So when I approached Firebridge Fireplaces, they were reluctant to let us use the parking lot for the beginning of the race because Saturdays are their busiest time. So they said that we could definitely use it for the beginning, but they wouldn't be able to allow us to block it off for the full 3 hours of the race.
Can I just add, Ben, are we going to be in construction on June the 10th?
Could be. I'm not sure.
Councillor Bryan?
Thank you. I guess the only issue I have with this on June the 10th as well is the Wixon's block party. So they're taking that parking lot away, so we're gonna have another parking lot taken away, and I think it's great. And I think that's why everyone's looking for some sort of compromise, that we can do this. And I get the logic about the hot dog cart, you need the water, otherwise this would have been perfect. I don't know if there is another option, but, you know, I think it's terrific, and certainly if that's the case, that's the case, and I could live with it. You know, that's not the biggest deal, but just want.
Councillor Beach?
What about the curling club parking lot, like the parking lot behind the curling club, between that and the seniors?
I'm not sure of the location of that parking lot.
That's a long way for those
Yeah,
kids to go.
I know it's a long ways, but I was just trying to think of some place.
Well, I'm just trying to, stupid computer, of course I'm not stupid, it's the computer, right? I just gotta see what June the 10th is. What time would your event be over?
We're anticipating that everybody would be back by 2.
By 2? Okay, so you need water, right?
Yeah. The A-team has requested that they have access to the day program on Church Street to have the water. Yeah.
We have water here, right? Outside? We have a tap.
We're open to having it in this parking lot if you're willing to allow us to use it. We'd be happy to.
So, do you want would the cart be at Church Street, or would they?
We can continue to have, it would be nice for us to have it all in one location so that we just have one finishing spot for everybody to go to. So if we're allowed to set up our finish line here, we would be extremely grateful to be able to use this parking lot for our finish line.
All right, so what we have to do then, okay, do you want to do the front and the back? Like which part?
Sure.
There's lots of room at the back.
Well, and we can, if we're okay, we could allow people to then park in the one lot if we're allowed to use it, and have the people registering, they can come to this area to park.
Yeah. Okay. That works. And there is water available, both back and front, I believe. Okay. Oh, I don't either. That's why I wanted to look, because their next event that day is at 1 till 5, is the Legion Pipes and Drums. So, I mean, I don't have to be at the Legion before 2 or whatever. So, we'll make sure that you have, if you want to touch base with us, you know, a week or so before, we'll make sure that we understand what all you need, and that, and it, actually, if you call Debbie, okay, Debbie LaRue is our clerk, and she'll work with you.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we need a motion then that, Councillor Bellinger?
Your Worship, I will give you a motion that they use the property here at Township Office to register people and whatever.
No, the registration will still go on.
Yeah, we'll still start at Firebridge Fire.
Firebridge, but they will use our property for the other events.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay. All right. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, so if you work with Debbie, she'll help you through it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I think one thing that we have to do then is, this parking lot is busy on the weekends as well. People, we have to block it off on Friday night, okay? And to Saturday. Okay, I will now pass this on to Finance Emergency Services Committee.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. I'll call the meeting of Finance Emergency Services Committee to order. Under correspondence, the first item is number 80 from Honorable Bob Chiarelli, Minister of Infrastructure. And I'll speak to this just for a couple minutes. We've been wondering for a long time, the province has promised money for natural gas for some time in our rural areas. And in the past, they had a run from Zephyr to Leasdale and down to Sanford on the list. Zephyr Leasdale was number 4 on the list, and I think Sanford was 21 on the list. So what's happened at this point in time is the Zephyr Leasdale one is still 4th, but they're only going to do 3 projects this year. They're going to do one, I believe, in Kawartha Lakes, one in Bob Cage, and the other one on Scugog Island are the only ones they're going to do. a very, very quick little bit of history. Last November, both Union Gas and Enbridge Gas made application to the Ontario Energy Board to add, essentially what they were trying to do was to get everybody in Ontario to pay an extra penny or two on per linear foot for all their gas, so that they could get the capital they needed to expand to the rural areas in Ontario. The Ontario Energy Board said, not a chance, we're not going to let you do that. But what you can do, if you want to charge the people that are getting the new service a fee, you're welcome to do that. So now what's happened is the province of Ontario has kicked in $100 million, which they're going to give to actually Enbridge and Union Gas, also both amalgamated this year under the same ownership. So it's one company now, it's not two anymore. Not that it's a monopoly, but anyway. So the reality is that right now, according to Enbridge, is their process is the Ontario Energy Board is allowing them to charge new customers an amount of 23 cents per linear foot gas, and they can amortize it over. Very great deal. So the reality of it all is that we're down to that gas isn't coming to us in the very near future, and all we can do is hope that next year in the new application, if in fact they do a new application for our rural areas, that perhaps we will see some natural gas. But the reality is whatever they do with it, but you as a new user are the one that's going to be paying for the next 40 years for it. So we'll wait for more information. So that's where it's been. We were all very hopeful that we were going to get some natural gas in the rural area, but according to Mark Watson of Enbridge, early last week when I spoke to him, I asked him to come out and actually do a delegation here, and he actually said to me, I don't think I want to do a delegation because I don't have any good news for you. So maybe next year we'll see him. Anyway, that's where this is it. So would someone like to receive that correspondence? Councillor Bryan? Great. All those in favor? Carried. Item number 81, Minister of Municipal Affairs. This is the Ontario Fair Housing Plan announcement. Any comments on that? No? Someone like to receive it? Received by Councillor Hyatt. All those in favor? Carried. Item number 82, this is impact regarding the important improvements to Municipal Connect 2.0. No comments?
No.
Received by Councillor Hyatt. All those in favor? Carried again. Thank you. This one is item number 83, Township of Adjala. I think I pronounced that right. Okay. This is a request to have taxes payable on the purchase, no taxes payable on the Canadian flags and the 150th anniversary flags waived for this year. Any comments? Want to support it?
Receive for information.
Receive it?
A lot of people have already got flags out, which is great to see, so.
Motion received by Councillor Bryan. All those in favor? Carried. This is item number 84, Ann Irvine. This is regarding the Foster Memorial Committee. This is a request to use the Goodwood Hall for pearls and lace. They used it, they've used it for a number of years, I think. Councillor Ballinger?
Motion to support it.
Motion to support. Are there any questions?
No, but the proper protocol would be to put this through the hall board. So
I think we had this issue last year.
We don't have any issues with it, but it should refer to the hall board.
Is that what you want to do?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll receive it and refer it to the Goodwood. Was that a friendly amendment, Councillor Ballinger? Good, so we'll receive it and refer it to the Goodwood Community Hall Board, Community Association, wherever we call it. Great, all those in favor? Carried. These are reports to the committee. This is the first one, TR 1817, Susan Strong. This is a bylaw essentially just outlining the tax levies that we'll be charging for 2017. Move the recommendation by Councillor Hyatt. Are there any questions? All those in favor? Question? Go ahead, Councillor Martin.
Just a statement. Our mill rate actually went down because our impact values went up. So, and that happens all the time, but
That's the process,
I did take a look at that. Just so people are always surprised by that.
Because they don't understand it, unfortunately.
Yeah, but they're always surprised by that.
Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Report PRO 517, Bob Ferguson, Manager Parks. This is regarding the hydro panel at Farmers Market. Mayor O'Connor.
First of all, I'm very disappointed that they're moving, but the other thing is that it's $600 a year to leave the panel there, and it costs $2,500 to $3,000 to take it out. So my feeling is that let's leave it there for a year or two and see what else comes up that might, go in the parking lot that would need hydro. I don't think there is a huge rush, it's not a huge amount of money, and, I would hate to take it out one year and then end up putting it back in the next, so.
It's great. I think it's an asset to have it there, so let's see what
So
happens.
do I.
Great. Any other questions? Councillor Hyatt?
Yeah, I'm in favor of leaving it too. I just wanted to ask Bob, do you think there's any opportunities for us to advertise that is set up there, that we could, you know, if community groups wanna use it for mini events, I guess, in that part of the parking lot? You think that has a use? Yeah, I would suggest we do that, Mayor O'Connor. If the community group has a little event they wanna plug in,
Yep.
they can do so. I mean, we're paying for it anyway, so that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll ask just one little question, Donna's asked me is, so when will we have stopped billing them? As of the date they provided their notice, or what date should we stop billing them for the hydro service? Any suggestions? I don't remember what date they actually packed it in. Does anybody remember? February? Do you know when you got the notice? Actually, it came into the office to hear. Up till that date, and that's it. Have we continued billing them, Donna, since that date? We still have continued to bill them? Okay. 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 So, included in the motion, I guess, included in the recommendation is to, bill them to the date of their notice. Okay? And, the motion is to leave, is it your motion, Mayor O'Connor, I guess, to leave you got it, Debbie? Okay. Great. Any questions on the motion? All's in favor? Carried. This is report number, PWO 2517, Van Kester. This is regarding the single axle truck and plow. Mayor O'Connor, go ahead.
Newmarket.
Would you like to go through this report? Councillor Bryan?
Move the recommendation.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Barton?
For you to Ben, Ben, just, what are we replacing? How old is this truck? How many kilometers?
It's about 16 or 17 years old.
Wow, okay. And what's it worth now?
5,000-10,000, maybe.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? No? Great. All's in favor? Carried. This is, Karen's report, PWO 3017, regarding the, tender for the seniors. Oh, sorry, did I miss one? Sorry, I missed the Brookdale culvert. PWO 2917, Van Kester. This is the tender U1704 regarding the Brookdale Road culvert. Mayor O'Connor?
We haven't?
We haven't?
Nope.
Where's Ratcliffe out of?
Stouffville?
Okay, was that Ratcliffe Lumber at one point?
Don't think so.
No? Okay, I'll move the, recommendation.
Councillor Hyde, do you have a question?
Just a comment, I guess. It's one of these where you're astounded looking at the variation in numbers. I mean, going from 460 to 960 almost, I mean, that's just unbelievable. But
Not uncommon, though.
not uncommon, yeah. I guess they're not, they don't need to work, the top two, anyway.
So we have a motion to, move the recommendation. All's in
Could I-
favor? Sorry, Mayor
Wait,
O'Connor, you have a
no,
question? Go
no,
ahead. Okay.
Okay.
Call the question. All in favor? What were you
Well,
doing?
I have a question
Go
about
ahead.
this first. Okay, Ben, how comfortable are you with, you know, the person with the lowest bid on this tender? You know, this is a huge project and we're looking at, you know, a very, very small percentage point from one person that we all recognize their work and one that we don't.
Well, you have to award it, and we'll just deal with it. I hear they're pretty good, but you can't award it to the second bidder.
Unless you had reason to suspect the first one couldn't do it,
Well,
which you don't, so.
you don't.
Which I don't.
Okay.
I just have a question on that.
Mayor O'Connor, go ahead.
In light of the fact that, this company has not done, work for us, and considering that in the past we've had overruns on almost every project, can we, keep track and bring a report back on, what this, when this culvert is completed, exactly what it cost us,
Donna can do that.
okay?
Great, we have a motion, do we have a motion, Debbie, to move the recommendation? We do, all those in favor? Carried. This is Karen's motion now, PWO 3017, regarding the, tender E1719 for the senior center caretaker. Rob's the one been doing it now, I believe, right?
Move the recommendation.
Move the recommendation from Councillor Bryan. Are there any questions? All those in favor? Carried. We've already dealt with, oh, no, we haven't, sorry.
No.
This is, the sidewalk installation and repair. And I had a quick question. Ben, is it a specific sidewalk or a number of sidewalks that you've already listed to them? Is that what it is?
Repairs all through the town of Uxbridge. This also includes the sidewalk on Main Street North up to the trail.
Great.
And it also includes that front concrete pad at Zephyr Hall.
Great. So this is, so we sort of give them a list of all these things. That's
Yep.
what's in there. Okay, great. Councillor Barton, you have a question?
I think we put aside 40,000 for this during budget, just for that installation between Dominion and the Trans-Canada Trail. We have the Uxbridge Montessori School just north of that again. We're under budget by, $7,000. Do we have an idea what it would cost to take that to that school so that those kids aren't walking on the side of the road?
I don't know offhand, but I've never seen any of those kids walk up there. I've seen other people, but
Okay.
not the kids.
My daughter went there and we walked, and if you look, it's all beat down where people walk. There's no grass that ever grows there because there's so much traffic.
There is a pathway, for sure.
Just a thought.
Well, I think that, there's probably lots of areas that, they do walk on that side of the road all the way up.
Mhm.
Maybe Ben, if we have 40,000,
Go as far as you can go.
in our budget, when we're doing that side of the road, why wouldn't we continue as far as we can?
Give me direction.
Okay, I'm gonna move then that, when we're putting sidewalks in on the east side of Regional Road 1, that we continue, as far as,
As far as
oh
the
my
money
God.
will take us.
Money will take us, that doesn't sound good, but, till the money runs out, that doesn't sound good either, 'cause we don't have any stopping, that we continue that as far as our $40,000 budget will take us. And that doesn't mean the 40,000 goes on that side, it only means a continuation of where you were going to stop and the extra 7,000.
Councillor Hyatt had a question?
Yeah, just to build on that point, I mean, we've had discussions in the past too, that once, Fields of Uxbridge became more and more busy, I guess, for lack of a better word, that we would consider putting sidewalks all the way up on the east side, because it is a very busy road, as we all know. And I think Ben's kinda looked at that in his budget too, but, we gotta do that eventually. And now that everything is kinda taking shape up there, I think this could be opportune time in the next couple of years to sort of fill the hole in the donut and create a safe walking distance. I know the kids that come down too from Sandy Hook gotta zigzag back and forth across the street, so I think the time is ripe now that we start considering adding sidewalks to the east side. All the
Great.
way up.
Great.
So there is safe passage for anybody.
So we have a motion, right, Debbie, you got it? Good. Any other questions? All in favor? Carried. The next one is PWO 3217, Ben Kester. This is regarding the, tender regarding Centennial Park parking lot. So Ashland Paving would be $113,000 roughly, right? So they are the lowest bid by far. Councillor Beach, you have a question?
Yes, roughly how long will this project take?
About 3 weeks, I believe.
3 weeks, okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Quick
Mayor O'Connor?
question, again, I haven't seen that name that I'm aware of. Are these a local company or where are they from?
Not sure where they're from, but they've been around a while.
Okay, and we've done work with them before?
Don't believe so.
Oh. Okay.
Any other questions?
Again, you know, there's $300,000, $350,000
Amazing.
difference. Anyway, somebody's gonna be there watching this, I hope,
Yeah, there'll be a little bit of engineering on top of that.
but there'll be somebody
Yeah.
watching the whole process. Thank
Correct.
you.
Great, so we have a motion. Any other questions? No motion. Someone like to make a motion to move the recommendation? Councillor Bryan? Anyway, all those in favor? Thank you, carried. All right, report number CL 2017, Debbie LaRue. This is regarding the, tender Q1708 for the township page. There is a little, in the report, you can see a little preamble that we're trying to move along and maybe spend more of our, resources on some social media as opposed to print media, sorry, but it's just one of the directions we have a township's been moving on, so that's in Debbie's report. Councillor Beach?
Yes, and I understand about moving into social media and so on, but I'd like to make a suggestion. I know there was only $10 difference between the two quotes. I was just wondering why we couldn't do like one of our neighboring municipalities and divide between two local papers, like one week, one the next week. I know personally I found it hard with the Times Journal reading the small print because they have smaller pages for the duration.
I'll move the recommendation.
I'd just like to hear the clerk's, thoughts on that. Maybe not this year, but your thoughts on it.
And switching from?
Yeah, going back and forth, just your thoughts on it.
I mean, I can't say I'm necessarily opposed to it. I think it would be difficult and probably confusing at the beginning whether residents would find it once they get used to the concept. I can't say, again, it's not something we can track in terms of, you know, people that are reading it. I think from staff's perspective, it could be confusing, but I mean, in terms of if you're using the township page for a statutory notice, essentially you'd end up having to use both. So, I mean, you know, would it weigh out in the end? Possibly. I've never done it, so I can't say it would work or it wouldn't work. I don't know.
Mayor O'Connor?
The reason I'm supporting is that it went out to tender, and the tender came back, and if we were going to do it alternate weeks, then that's the way the tender should have been written. So, I'm not saying that that isn't a good idea, but that isn't what the tender went out with, and it wasn't how the tender was awarded, so it's, I support what the recommendation is. And I think that more and more, particularly, we see it in the south, and we're gonna see it in the north, that more and more people are using social media.
Councillor Barton and Councillor Beach?
Yeah, just to go along with what the mayor said, I'm amazed that these prices keep on dropping. Our advertising costs continue to go down.
This is up.
What's that?
This is up.
What, really?
Yeah.
Well, what did we pay this year? Sorry, I misread
$250.
it. $250. Oh, so it went up this year. Okay, fair enough. Then I withdraw that comment.
Thanks for coming, O'Day. Councillor Beach?
Yeah, now I've gotta remember what I wanted to say.
Not sure.
I can't.
I think one thing, if I could just throw a comment in, I think one thing that we have to be aware of, a little bit of Councillor Barton's comment, we do spend a lot of money on newspaper advertising, and I notice there's a lot of things on our township page I don't think need to be there, and I think that that's something we should work on going forward. that, there's many announcements and things on that page that I don't think are there. We need it for some statutory, we have some statutory requirements to make publications, and that's what the page should be, really, is the statutory stuff. All of the other things, the announcements and perhaps some of the library stuff and those things, I think we should be doing those social media. So the page we shouldn't be just, sometimes we get into 2 pages and we shouldn't be. Let's treat this page, this is a statutory page we have for, tenders and that sort of thing, and let's keep it that way. I think it's less cluttered, and I think people will pay much more attention to it anyway. Councillor Beach.
Now I remember. Just because I can't remember, was in the, putting out for the quotes and that, was there a size of page that was recommended? I can't remember, like...
Okay, the size
ahead,
we
Deb.
asked for is approximately 11.5 by 17. Approximately.
All right, any other questions? We have a motion on the floor. All's in favor? Carried. Favor? Unfinished business. Is there any? And under other business, we have the accounts for April. I have one question on the account. So I noticed that in April, the fire hall paid $2,000 for snow removal, and it just sort of struck me. I don't know if anybody can answer that here, but why would we have paid $2,000 for snow removal at the fire hall in April? It said April in that, but do you know?
It does go till April.
So we pay $2,000 a month for snow removal, even the month of April? Really?
Yeah. It does even out though, right?
I don't know. Okay, all right, great. Councillor Hyatt has a motion to move the accounts. Any other questions on the accounts? All's in favor? Carried. Any questions of the press?
Yes, Councillor. Report PWO 32, the parking lot for Centennial Park. How many parking spaces are going to be added to that parking lot?
I believe it's 20. Maybe someone else can answer it better than me. Do you happen to know, Fred? Would you know? Anybody? I can get that information when we're done. We'll get Ben to tell us exactly how many. Other questions? Press? No other questions? Moya, no? Anybody in the audience with a question? No? Great. I'll turn this over to Pam at Tourism, Heritage and Community Programs Committee.
Thank you. I'd like to open Heritage and Community Program Committee, Correspondence 85, Marlene Sarvis, repetition with regarding concerns about Uxpool temperature. Which? What?
About the parking, number of parking
Oh, Ben, how many parking spots will Centennial parking expansion give us?
Approximately 30.
30.
There'll be you'll lose 4 or 5 out on the street because of the entrances.
Okay, thank you. Any questions about Correspondence 85? Yes, Mayor?
Okay, I'm just going to receive the letter, and I think that we can ask questions on the next report.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of receiving? Okay, thank you. Report to committee RC 0517 of Carolyn Commence, Aquatic Coordinator, Pool Temperature and Multi-Users. Thank you for coming forward. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
This is an issue that I keep hearing, and I think we've all heard about this, is how cold our pool is. When I look at the report, and thank you for that, Carolyn, I don't understand it. I mean, I understand the report, but how can people consistently say the pool is cold? Is it the building that is cold, and that therefore it makes the water feel colder? But I have a number of people that I know are now using Stouffville, and they are also using, I don't know whether it's East Gwillimbury or Georgina's, because the water is much warmer.
Actually,
And if I could just finish, a lot of people are blaming the competitive swimming. And, you know, I've tried to say no. You know, when there's a big meet here, I understand it, that it might go down, but I don't understand why 72 here or whatever it might be, 82, does not feel like 82, and yet it does in another pool. So there has to be some explanation.
there's a couple of things that happen. Number one, it is an old building. It is over 40 years old. So, and the furnace we know that heats the pool air is to be replaced. So that is a factor, that the air temperature might feel a little cooler. We've worked with the HVAC company. It has increased. We actually haven't had a lot of complaints to the office the last little while, other than the ones where the pool heater, the one that heats the pool water, actually went down. Couple of contributing factors to how people acclimatize to the water. Depends on their own body water. So some days it'll feel warmer depending on how your body water is situated in your body. So if it's cooler outside, the water might feel warmer. If it's warm outside, it might feel cooler, and vice versa, depending on your own body. There's an aging population who are on many different kinds of medication that will affect how they feel in cold. So that's another factor. We had a reputation a number of years ago, and I'm saying like 15, 20, 30 years ago, where our pool temperature was 81 degrees. And people still replicate and feel that, oh, that's cold. What I'm hearing now is the general public, when they're sitting on the deck watching their kids in swimming lessons or whatever, they're saying, I am so hot, you know, I brought a sweater, I take the sweater off, I'm down to my t-shirt, and so the air, we are trying to keep warmer so that the pool does feel better, because when you're exercising and you're not in the water, your water's drying off, so it will make you feel cool as well. So there is a lot of different factors. Both Stouffville and Georgina are newer facilities within the last 15, 20 years. So that is a factor as well, because their heating systems and their buildings are newer, so they're able to regulate the air better.
What's the temperature of Stouffville?
The pool water is 82 to 83 degrees.
And in Georgina?
Same.
82?
Yes. They also have therapy or warmer top pools that a lot of the aging population use, or the young children, both facilities.
Councillor Malloy?
Thank you. Through you, I guess that's, it's always a concern. We've heard it for so many years that it's so much colder, but it would make sense that if the room was colder, the water should feel warmer for everybody.
Yeah.
But that doesn't seem to be the case.
But when you're exercising and that air is feeling cooler and you're wet, you know yourself, when you've been at the beach and it gets a little cooler and the water starts drying off, you feel cool but if the air is warmer, you don't feel the cold as much.
So at note, we never turn the temperature of the pool down for the club.
No.
It's
that
never turned down.
To heat the hundreds of thousands of gallons of water in my pool takes too long to both cool it down and warm it up. The only way I can do that, well, there's two ways. I can turn off the heater, which is just going to maintain it mostly, or I have to take out a lot of water and add a lot of fresh water back in.
But, as I noted, it goes up at least a degree in 4 hours. So,
Councillor Hyatt?
Yeah, thanks for your report, Carolyn. Just, I guess, a question. Are they confusing the therapy pool in these other locations with the main pool that we have? Or are we talking apples to apples here, or apples to oranges?
I can't really answer that.
Because if that's the case, then yes, that water would be substantially warmer
Yes,
than a lane swim
if
type
they are,
pool.
but unfortunately I can't tell if they are or not.
And I
because-
guess that's part of the rationale for us building a new pool up at Fields of Uxbridge would be that we can add a therapy pool
Yes.
to the mix. I'm a little bit, wary, I guess, of the statistics, other than, there has to be some rationale for the feeling that it's different, even though the number is the same. I mean,
I should tell you-
you've already mentioned what those could be, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, if we are meeting the standards, whatever that is, 81 or 82 or whatever, then I'm not quite sure why the complaints would still be coming in, other than the days we had those breakdowns, but
Yeah.
those are kind of exceptions to the rule, so I guess I'll leave it and see where it goes, but, thanks.
Councillor Barton?
Yeah, my family used the pool, 5 or 6 times a week, and, but when my daughter was really young, we couldn't use Ux Pool. She was tiny. Even with a wetsuit, she couldn't handle 82 degrees. So we went to Swim Kids, they keep the pool at 90, and even then she was cold. The issue that we have here is that you can't make it great for lane swimmers and also great for young kids doing swimming lessons or older people doing aquafit. One pool and one temperature won't work for everyone. So we just need to make sure that whenever we solve our pool issue, which will be a new facility, that this gets solved. And until then, everyone's going to be unhappy. It's too warm for my wife and people doing lengths, and it's way too cold for the little kids taking lessons and the older people. And unfortunately, I think we're stuck there. If we fix it for one group, the other group will be miserable. So, I support what you guys are doing. I think 83 or 82 is a compromise, and you're trying to balance everyone's priorities, and nobody's happy, which probably means you're doing it right.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Who is the major users?
Lessons. Lessons are our major users.
So they're younger children.
They're anywhere from the age of 4 months up to 16 years old. And the occasional adult lesson.
Yeah, I concur with what Councillor Barton is saying. I mean, I know even in room temperatures now at my age, I mean, I would never think I'd be, cold in a 72 room, but some days you are. And I think until we get a new pool and we have a facility that, therapeutic pool, which is warmer, that we're not going to be able to satisfy the people. So I think this was a good exercise, and I want to thank you for it. But we're just going to have to persevere until we get this new pool. And I was hoping so much that we would get that in the budget announcement.
So
But
did I.
anyway, didn't happen, so we'll keep plugging to see if we can't get more money to help us with it, because we can't do it on our own. So what I'll do is receive the report and ask that that report be given to the writer of the yeah. Okay, so I'm moving the recommendation, okay?
Okay.
And that a copy of it be given to
Marlene?
Marlene Service,
Yes.
okay?
Yeah.
All those in favor? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
and do a higher sample?
Yeah, she's gonna do a, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Report RC 0617, Amanda Ferrero, Manager of Recreation, Culture and Tourism Family of Logos. Any, Mayor?
Yeah, sorry, we won't ask you to come forward, but I love these. I think that they're outstanding. And I was talking to staff the other day about maybe doing a stylized flag as part of our 150 celebrations. Because if you look at our flag, I mean our township flag, it's a beautiful flag with the coat of arms on it. But when you're driving by, you don't see that coat of arms. It blends right in. Whereas other municipalities have more, they're using a stylized, Pickering says Pickering and that sort of thing. So I'm suggesting that the one that says Discover Uxbridge, that we could maybe do a flag with taking Discover out and just say Uxbridge, where it says Trail Capital Canada, instead of having it in green background, just have it in the words Trail Capital of Canada put in green ink. And maybe it should say Uxbridge Township, but you know, Uxbridge is Uxbridge, so I just passed that on for information. But I think that it's time that we did have a different flag, one that can be used, and people will be able to see it. And what better than trees for our municipality? Can I ask who designed it?
Take Root Creative
Oh.
designed this for us.
Caitlin Christoph.
Yes, correct.
It's amazing. So I'll move the, I'll support the recommendation, and I would like staff to come back with what it would cost to redesign a flag. I'm not saying that one, but a flag that is more stylized, that can be used at functions.
Oh, that'd be a good idea. Councillor Malloy had a question?
I have a quick question. Amanda, I'm just curious, so obviously we got some funds from Healthy Kids. And so is it your intention then to use the flag with the Healthy Kids when you do a Healthy Kids program, and then when you do another one with Jumpstart, you put the Jumpstart one on it? Because I'm just concerned, because Jumpstart doesn't have anything to do with Healthy Kids, do they? Are they part of the application process? We got the money. Was it Jumpstart and Uxbridge that applied for that, or was it? I don't want to get you up. I can hear you. You can yell from there. I'm just, is that your? Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
And when we do events that are Healthy Kids and Jumpstart, we're trying to put them together.
Okay.
So we don't have to use those logos together, but we have to
Okay.
know when we need.
So
She
they were
should
part of the
come-
application.
She should
So,
come
okay.
forward. Nobody on the TV can hear. Is yours on? Yours isn't
Sorry,
on either.
sorry. I pressed it off. Sorry.
Pretty good, eh?
Thank you, Amanda.
Yeah, no problem. So Jumpstart are a partner for the Healthy Kids. So when we do events, especially take time events, or any of our recreation events, we want to recognize both Jumpstart and Healthy Kids, and they are one of our collaborating partners.
Councillor Hyatt?
Thank you. Amanda, do we own the logos for all this, or are they still proprietary?
Yeah, we own the logos, yep.
For council's information, and Fred's aware of this, the BIA's been considering re-bannering the downtown, you know, changing that relax, dine thing to something else. I think this could be added in to the mix. They could have a standardized, either the negative banner, which is like your tablecloth, the white on color, or vice versa. I mean, I think they look great. They bring in the Trail Capital. I think I would just leave it as Discover Uxbridge, Mayor O'Connor, rather than trying to change it again. I mean, to me, it's neat, it's easy to read, and it stands out from a distance too. You can pick these things off at quite a distance, so if we can use the logos, I think that would be great, and maybe I can bring that to BIA, or Fred and I can bring it and maybe give them an option to put it on their banners, because it's certainly timely, because they're looking at doing it this year too, so. Who owns the logos? Where are they? Are they with tourism, or who has them?
Yeah, so I've put them on the shared drive.
Okay.
So they are there.
So they are there?
For
Great.
our use, and
Okay.
If I
Well, maybe we can
wanna
talk
do
to
any
you.
modifications, I just ask.
Maybe we'll talk to you after and
Yeah,
and get
yeah,
it
we
straight.
can do that.
Thanks, looks great.
Thank you, Amanda. I know from my perspective, having one logo that we can utilize, and because we own it in so many different ways for the municipality, it really gives us a good point of branding, even for anything to do with our website, the tourism website, just identification in any way, just by simply changing little pieces on it to identify certain things that we want to, I think can be such a bonus. And I mean, if you look at most things, the better that you do your branding, the more effective the message becomes. So, Mayor O'Connor, you made a motion, did you? Yeah, that, okay. It was a long way around. So those all in favor of Mayor O'Connor's motion, sorry, thank you. Passed. Report RC 0717 of Nancy Marr, Museum Manager and Curator, Historical Center Fence. This has been a long time coming. Councillor Malloy?
I'd move the recommendation. Yeah, get rid of the fence, looks terrible.
Any other, Councillor Hyatt?
Once the fence is removed, Amanda, could we plant some cedars or something? Because it'll look very open when you rip that fence down. Do you know what I mean? You got those big trees, and then you got nothing else.
Yeah, we'll definitely look at what we can do to make the edge
Supplemental
look,
landscaping afterwards?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll look at that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I don't know whether the trees, because of the rooting, because the gas lines and everything there, would have to be something a little more shallow.
We might need to move it back a little bit as well, but we'll have them take a look at what the
No,
options
that
are.
would be a good option. Whoops, would anybody like to make a motion on that? Oh, did, okay. And all those in favor? Okay, thank you. Okay. Report RC 0817 of Don Cook, Trails Coordinator, and Rick Edwards, Trail Committee Chair, Trail Committee Membership. Any questions? Oops, sorry, Councillor Barton?
Yeah, just, I think there might be a typo. I'm listed as a voting member on the Trails Committee, and I'm a council rep, so I'm not. So that makes it 9 members, including Dave Walker, when I'm eliminated.
You're actually listed as a resident member.
Oh.
We checked with Debbie before so it's whether we want to leave you on as a resident, because you are allowed.
Mary Lynn put me down as co-council rep when I first got on council. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah.
Sit on here and
Both co-chairs.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Or
Okay.
co-councillors.
Yeah. We worked very well
We'll
together.
check.
Yeah. Anyway, so I make those changes. Thanks.
Councillor Hyatt?
Yeah, I know you're adding David to the committee. Is he gonna be a voting member? Is that the intent? Yeah, okay, it doesn't say that there. I'll move the report. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. Report 0117 of Colleen Baskin, Secretary of Avec, relocation and placement of story and stone sculpture. Any questions? Yes, Mayor?
I will support the recommendation. However, I think we should be removing the one piece that you don't see hidden in the trees that is out beside the building. The green one. I have no idea where we could put it, but I think there's lots of areas that we could certainly support putting another piece of art in, but there's no point having 3 in this location.
Just to add to that, for the Baird sculpture, there will be a subsequent report on that very shortly, because that was something that the committee felt that there was some other actually really good suggestions for it that will be brought forth at a later time. Any other questions, comments? Okay, so, yeah, and Mayor O'Connor supported it. All those in favor? Okay, thank you. Any unfinished business? Okay. Under other?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on to other. Councillor Barton.
So under other business, the Trans-Canada Trail have a grant program to celebrate the Trans-Canada Trail closing all their gaps for the 150th year. And Brock Township, Ajax, Pickering, Durham Region, and Scugog are all working together to do a race. It's called the Lake to Lake 150. Something in that name, something like that anyway, where you start in Beaverton Harbour, ride the Trans-Canada Trail to Uxbridge, stop at the second wedge for lunch, and then continue on all the way to Lake Ontario. They're working on that, basically just using the Trans-Canada Trail budgets for every municipality. I'd like to make a motion that we allow Amanda to apply for that grant so that we can move forward with that event.
Councillor Moy?
Sorry, did you say, I thought you said using the Trans-Canada Trail money for each municipality?
Right. So
for the grant money you're talking, the grant they're applying for, not the current money we have.
No, the grant money that
right.
that became available. And it's $1,500, which doesn't go far on our own, but when you add it, you know, all the different groups together, it becomes sizable.
Any other comments, questions? Would you like to?
Yeah, so I'll
make a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. And all those in favor? Okay, thank you. Any, do I close it? Yeah, I'm going to do, any comments or questions from the press? Yes, Roger?
Yes, Councillor, I do have a question, but the mayor has vacated her seat, and my question is to her. Can I reserve the right to ask this question when she returns?
Sure.
Thank you.
No problem. Any questions from the audience? Okay. I will close, but we'll come back to Roger's question when the mayor returns. Close, sorry. I thought she was coming back. Okay. Sorry, I'll close Tourism, Heritage, and Community Program Committee, and pass it on to, excuse me, Parks, Facilities, and Arenas.
Thank you, Councillor Beach. Parks, Facilities, and Arena, there's a report on here from the Uxbridge Music Hall Advisory Board. I would entertain a motion from one of the fellow councillors to have the chairman of the Music Hall to come forward.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Councillor.
All in favor? Michael Wood's coming. Mike, if you'd come up to the front, please. Yes, by all means, by all means. So you've all seen the thing about the temporary vacate clause. So maybe Mike, if you'd just go ahead and explain it to council, and then council, would you address your questions to Mike Woods, please?
Thanks very much, Councillor Ballinger, and thank you, Council, for allowing Cindy Jacobson and I to come up here and speak. A couple of years ago, the Music Hall was presented with an opportunity by a local business to bring Burton Cummings into the Music Hall. He had specifically said he would like to perform at the Music Hall. And that's not uncommon for artists to hear about our own music hall here in town because of the acoustics in the building. He wanted to come on a Monday night, and Monday night has typically, for a very long time, been booked by one group as a rehearsal night. And they were offered alternative rental space to have their rehearsal, and they insisted that they stay at the music hall. So there was no policy in place that we could go to them and say, look, we really want to have Burton Cummings come in because of the benefit, not only to, you know, the visual appearance of having Burton Cummings in Uxbridge and the impact it would have, but it would have provided a lot of, quite frankly, some money for our own revenue in the building, and it would have been a sold-out show, I'm sure. So we started working on a policy to work on this, and in the meantime, there might be another one coming. Comedian Mary Walsh has said she may have time and would like to visit Uxbridge. So we thought we'd create a policy that would allow us the opportunity to go into a group that is in rehearsal mode, never in production mode, never in a stage, never if they have sets in place or costumes. This is strictly to go in for a rehearsal mode where we can say, we just have to move some people to another building, here's the building we're offering, and just move forward and allow the term a larger act or a larger impact group to come in and do their performance. Because the music hall is first and foremost a performance venue, and then secondly a rehearsal venue. So that's the policy. The biggest concern that we discussed at our own board meeting was, are we going to try and move a group, specifically a theatrical group that's in the middle of a rehearsal, and it would just be bad business to attempt to do that.
Okay, Cindy, have you any comments you'd like to add on to Michael's?
No, just that there are other venues in the township where we could relocate them. Wouldn't take much to move the risers that they use, that Pine Ridge Chorus uses for their rehearsals. Wouldn't take very much, and the revenue that would be put out to relocate them would be far surpassed by whatever act we could bring in.
Thank you. Questions from council, please. Councillor Hyatt.
Ballinger. I'm just going to play devil's advocate for a minute here. I'm sure we've all seen recently what's been going on with United Airlines and et al. If I had this space leased, and I don't, we're going to drag people down the aisle, but if I had this space leased and it booked for months and months in advance and so on, and you called me and said, guess what, Burton Cummings is coming, so you got to go over to the senior center, I would probably be put out. And as you say, if I was willing to relocate, then obviously that would be something that we could look at. If on the odd occasion I decided to say, well, forget it, you know, I've committed to this just because so and so, what you're telling me is I'm a second-class citizen. How do you react to that?
It's not at all to do with us being second class or what it.
I'm just putting it out there.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. No, it's strictly just in what the amount of impact on the user group is. So if you're in the hall with you and however many, say 20 people, and there's no sets, no costumes, it's just simply saying, you know, we're going to ask you to move to the senior center, for example, for one evening, for one rehearsal night.
Okay.
I guess in reality, I guess we don't feel that's you know, major. I mean, and the board's always open to if you came back and said, but it's my parents' anniversary, my parents founded this group, we were going to have their anniversary, then that would all be taken into consideration. But I can assure you at no time would you be dragged physically from the music.
Kicking and screaming.
But I guess where I'm going is it's a sort of a two-way street. In other words, if I couldn't relocate or there was something else that didn't fit with what I needed, would you go back to Burton Cummings and say, look, can you do it the Tuesday night or whatever? Or is it a drop-dead kind of decision made that it's only that night that he's coming, so everybody else kind of gets bumped? Do you understand?
Oh, absolutely.
And again, I'm playing devil's advocate because I can't see this ever happening, probably, or if it does, it would be 1 in a million. But should it happen, obviously, you have to handle the repercussions of it, right? So
when we go to the group, I can assure you that checking if there's another night available would have already been examined, because typically when people like Mary Walsh or Burton Cummings are coming, they're coming because they have a window, because they're usually booked for the amount they want to work.
Well, I would think especially for those types of folks, they would know months, if not years in advance when they're available. So I'm just putting it out there. So
I appreciate the question, because there is, I mean, at the board there was lots of discussion about this, And
Okay.
we had to, you know, commit amongst ourselves that this is truly just, when it's going to be
Sure.
low impact.
And again,
for
if you
Great
knew
River.
a year in advance that he was coming, it would give you a year to relocate that person, correct? In other words, you don't want to be calling them on a Friday night, excuse me, and saying, guess what, Monday, you're out of there because, you know,
If this were to
whoever is
happen,
coming, call and say.
if this were to happen, this is typically gonna be, you know, a
Months
few
in
months in
advance.
advance anyways. This isn't gonna be, like when the balcony was
Yeah, well,
challenged.
that was a one-off. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Question, Ingrid?
No, just a comment. Really, if you take a look at the seniors letter that's coming up shortly, the municipality's been in a position to bump clients at the senior center, bump the seniors for years and years and years as per the original agreement if a rental came along, and one might argue that you've already got a precedent set by your ability to do that already.
Thank you.
Councillor Malloy?
Well, and I think it's important through you to note that it comes back to council too. If there's an issue, it's coming to council anyway, right? So, I mean, it's win-win. It's policy you need to have in place, I agree.
Councillor Beach?
I agree, the precedent has been set, and, I mean, the opportunity to get Burton Cummings or, you know, like, or any of these caliber of people coming to Uxbridge, would draw and promote our music hall and our town even more. Like, I mean, it's a win situation, as you said. A rehearsal could be moved, you know, for one night, for the betterment.
Any other questions from council? Councillor Burton?
Yeah, not a question, just, I completely support this. If we can have, you know, in my notes I put in, you know, if we could get Neil Young here on a Tuesday night, or something, the stars align and we could get someone and we had to bump my daughter's dance class, I would hope that we would bump that class very, very quickly.
Thank you very
Okay, thanks, Cindy and Mike, thank you. Before I get you, someone to move on this, there's a question from, the previous committee, from Roger. You asked that when the mayor come back, you had a question. Would you ask the mayor, please?
Thank you, Councillor. Mayor, getting back to Amanda's report on the, and your mention that maybe we should be looking at a new flag. Can you tell me how long we've had the flag that we now fly?
It happened, and I'm not sure whether it was Bill that was the mayor or whether it was me, but it was back in the 80s.
Since the 80s?
Yeah.
And for a municipality to change its official flag, is there any process that is required to be gone through that perhaps we don't know about? Or is it just a decision of council?
I think it's a decision of council, but what I'm suggesting is that, you know, we're one of the few municipalities that have a coat of arms, that we should be using that. That should be our official flag. But as an alternative, and one that will stand out more, that here's a great opportunity to use the ones that we saw this morning.
Oh, so you're not talking about replacing our official flag?
No.
This would be an alternative for promotional?
Right.
Thank you, Mayor, for cleaning that up. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Okay, on the report and on correspondence 86, could I have a motion, please? Councillor Barton, you move it?
Yeah, I move it.
You move it? All in favor? It's carried. Now I'll turn to the paper and ask you if you have any questions in regards to the report on the music hall. Okay, it looks like nil. Anyone in the audience? Okay, on that, is there any unfinished business? Is there any other business? Okay, at that point, I would like to move this over to Councillor Barton on sustainability, watershed, and conservation.
All right, I'll start with Sustainability, Watershed and Conservation. I'm going to start with item number 87. This is from the CEO of Forests Ontario, with the Heritage Tree Program and Ontario's Green Leaf Challenge. Yes, Councillor Hyatt.
Make a motion to receive.
Fair enough. I'm going to speak about it because I want to talk about this. This is something... So, the Heritage Tree Program, I couldn't think of any trees in our municipality that we could put under that. Maybe Elgin Park. Just the canopy there's pretty fantastic. But I'll let you guys go with that. And then on the Green Leaf Challenge, I went to that website last night, and I've registered, and you know, the Watershed Committee, the Scouts, and then my own program on trees, I'll make sure that's accounted for in that program where they're going to, you know, count all the trees put in Ontario. Okay, so all those in favor of Councillor Hyatt's motion to receive? Carried. And then any unfinished business? Okay. And then under other business, I do have one. Do you want to mention it, Jay?
No, I think it was, I'd like you to mention it, and then I would add on to it.
Okay. So under other business, there is a program called the Vimy Oaks. And this was a soldier who was at Vimy Ridge, and you know, he looked around after the battle, kind of thinking of a memento, and some people will pick up a rock, and he picked up some acorns. So he picked those up, he brought them home and planted them in Scarborough, and oak trees came up. Now, with the 100th anniversary of Vimy Ridge, those acorns have turned into, you know, full-size oak trees, and they've created offspring out of those and are selling Vimy Oaks. What I would propose, they're $125 each, and what I would propose is that we put them in, you know, Veterans Park, a tree in Elgin Park, and then the hamlets, so Goodwood, Zephyr, Leaksdale, and I'd like to include Eudora, the park there, because our residents use that. It's $125 each. We'll hope that they make it, but I'd like to move that to Parks and Rec budget and see if we could get that money from Bob's budget to plant some extra trees, or maybe from the lack of sidewalk if we go that way. We're going to spend that money over and over and over again. Any comments on that? I'm going to start with Jack, if you don't mind, Gary Lynn.
Okay, the soldier, during the Vimy battle, the soldier was Lieutenant Leslie Miller. And when the war was over, he was the one that picked up the acorns and brought them, and he brought them and planted them in farmland in Scarborough, and it was called the Vimy Farmlands. That's what it was, the Vimy Oak Farmlands. There's a Baptist church that sits there now. In Scarborough. I'm not sure the exact location. David might have it, but I don't have the exact location. But there's a tie back here that goes back a number of years of the author of the Vimy Oaks books. Her mother's cousin came and worked at a farm here in Glen Major, and he went from Glen Major on to the Vimy Wars and was killed. Some of this money, I think everybody understands now that after 100 years, adjacent to Vimy Ridge, the Canadians are putting in a centennial park, and they're going to plant 100 of these oaks there. Part of that money, part of it, the money is people send in donations and everything, but if you buy one of these Vimy Oak saplings for $125, some of that money will go towards this Centennial Park. I think because of our history here, and Sam Sharp and Cy Ellison, and Uxbridge being what it is, and the tie-in with Glen Major, I too would like to see that we purchase some of these trees and put them in spots that they, and you just don't get these trees. You have to fill out a form, and you have to put the reason in and where you're going to plant it. So there's a little bit of work to this, but I agree with Councillor Barton. I'm in favor of this.
Yeah, go ahead. Actually, Gary Lynn, do you want to go next?
I totally support it. But I would like one in all of our hamlets. And I'm not sure that we should be putting, more than one in some of them. I think it would be very appropriate to, put a couple around the, in the museum grounds as well, as the, Elgin Park and certainly the, Veterans Park. So I think that we could probably find, place for at least 12 of these, to go in.
Yep.
And, it's great history. Actually, there was a very long article not that long ago in the Toronto Star, about the, Vimy Oaks. So.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll go to Fred.
Just a quick comment, Councillor Malloy, that park is at Kennedy and Steeles. Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to
It's
find.
by the Chinese Baptist Church.
Yes, what is,
Yeah, Kennedy and Steeles.
I know that, okay.
Okay, Councillor Hyatt?
Yeah.
Can I just, add to my comments, or make a suggestion, or make a motion that we purchase 15 Vimy Oaks, from the parks budget. No, I think that we can talk about that after.
Okay, Councillor Hyatt?
Yeah, I read the same thing too, and from what I gathered from it, these are select projects. It's not like you order a box of them from us.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be one, where is that tree gonna go and what's the surroundings? I mean, I totally agree, we should be getting as many as we totally can, but
Yeah.
my guess is they're only gonna release maybe half a dozen if we're lucky.
Yeah.
So I think we need to have priority locations for where we're gonna plant these.
And why
And
they're
why?
priority.
In other words, number one to me should be Veterans Park, because it's obviously what it is. And then have a list, should we get more, this is where they go, rather than arbitrarily say, okay, let's stick one here, one there. I think you're gonna have to write a story for each one of these applications as to where this thing is gonna go and why. Otherwise, they're gonna say, forget it, we're gonna go with a better story, so.
Yeah.
So I think whoever's gonna do this
Mhm.
has to take that into consideration. If it's gonna be you or staff, I think we need to have an understanding of what the priority is here.
Okay.
If we can get 20 of them, great. I don't see that, but maybe I'm being negative. But, anyway, if we can follow up with that, that would be great. Thanks.
Okay, I'll go with Jack and then Gary Lynn.
Yeah, just, I've went through the form. It has, the designations where they can be planted, and there's a list of them there, and it includes schools as well.
And then Gary Lynn?
Yeah, make an application for 15 and we only get 6, that's fine. And I agree that we need to do a story about it. But I was just thinking after, I spoke is that one thing that we should do is, there should be one planted on First Avenue in front of, Sam Sharp's home. Or if the boulevard there won't allow it, certainly we should be approaching the owner of the house and asking if we can plant, an oak there.
I think that's a great idea. And I just want to call out, Jill Ballinger is a teacher at Vimy Ridge Elementary School. And, we all read this and we didn't do anything about it. She grabbed me at a party and made sure that I was aware that this was happening and made sure that Jack and I spoke to come up with this.
She grabbed her uncle too.
So it's great that we have residents that make sure that we don't miss things and make something happen. So I'm glad that took place. So, we have a motion from Gary Lynn. Gary Lynn, can we make it so Jack and I work with Bob and get the applications in and maybe borrow the Historical Society if we need verbiage? Excellent. Thank you. Okay. Oh, all those in favor? Yeah. That vote didn't surprise me very much. All right, any unfinished business? Any other business? Any questions from the press? No? From the giant audience? No? Okay, great. I'll close this meeting and pass it off to Councillor Bryan with Public Works.
Thank you very much, Councillor Barton. I'll call the meeting this order of Public Works and Operations. First piece of correspondence is a letter from Rosalind Ronson, request to make the area of Concession 3 and WAG Road a community safety zone. This was tabled during the regular meeting of the General Purpose and Administration Committee of April 3rd, 2017. Questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Barton, first out of the gate.
Okay, I just hadn't turned off my mic, but but thanks for calling me first. I'd like to hear from
Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah.
I need a motion to lift it from the table. Councillor Beach?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Carried.
All right. So I'd like to ask a question of Ben on if this is possible to make this a community safety zone. We've spoken about it in these meetings before, and it wasn't all that clear.
Typically, the community safety zones are meant for schools, parks, that kind of area, not out in the rural area. The only, from what I hear from the police, when they lay these community safety zone charges, they go to court and they invariably get reduced anyway. So, and then you have to get the police there in the first place, which is difficult at times, although it's getting better. So I've sent an email to the police to see if they can do some increased enforcement in this area.
Okay. Councillor Malloy? Oh, sorry. Oh, shoot, I forgot it's not my meeting anymore.
My meeting.
I just assume I'm always in charge.
You're not at home either. Councillor Malloy?
I guess that's a bit of a concern. I know that everybody's worried about traffic everywhere, but can we make our whole town a community safety zone? That sort of takes away the emphasis that we have now on school areas, and so I mean, I agree we need more enforcement there because they do fly down the thirds, no question. I just don't want to water down the term community safety zone, and we have to be careful. There's probably 6 or 7 houses here in that little stretch. There's not very many. And I just don't want to make every street a community safety zone in town because I think it takes away from how important those community safety zones are, particularly around our schools. So I'm a little reluctant. I understand the lady's concern, and I understand the fact that people fly down that road, and she mentioned cyclists are going to get taken out at some point in time. There's no doubt about that either, especially on the 3rd. It's a terrible road with the hills and that sort of thing on it. So I'm not in favor of making it a community safety zone. I think it's, I don't think it is. Down by the school it is. We know that already. I believe it is anyway. Am I wrong?
I'm pretty sure it is.
I think all our schools are in community safety zones, and I believe that one is as well. So I'm not a big fan of turning all our streets into community safety zones.
Thank you. Councillor Beach?
I agree with Councillor Malloy. There's a few houses there. Yes, I know because I come out that corner going on WAG Road frequently, and vehicles that are traveling southbound are exceeding the speed limit, even the ones coming from the south, which is a lower speed limit than 80. To make it a community safety zone there, you'd have to do it in so many other places. And I understand the lady's concern, but then there's the stretch from WAG Road down to where the hamlet starts. There's nothing there. It's gravel trucks, and as this lady said, the gravel trucks usually aren't the culprits. It's the residents or the people that pass through, and that's the big issue. We just need more police presence.
Okay, so do we have a motion? Or, sorry, Mayor O'Connor?
A motion that a letter be written to Rosalind Ronson, stating that we will request a presence for the police, of the police.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Carried. Next
Councillor
item.
Bryan, sorry, could I just add one little thing? Perhaps we could state in that letter that the police have stepped up to officers now on it all the time, so they've, well, let's say they've doubled their enforcement.
Actually, I don't know whether we mentioned it or not, that We recently spoke to, traffic officer in the municipality, and they caught a person going 120, was it, Pat?
I thought it was 140, or it was...
140
yeah.
on Davis Drive in a 70. He was removed from his car, and his car was towed. He lost his license for 7 days and received a huge fine. Then there was 2 on Highway 47 that were really big numbers as well. They lost their car as well, and another huge fine. So, you know, we keep getting that kind of response from our new traffic officers. People should get the message soon, because not only do they lose their vehicle and they can't drive for 7 days, the insurance companies are going to have a lot to say when they go to renew their insurance and reinstate their driver's license.
All right, next item of business, report to committee, PWO 2617 of Ben Kester, Director of Public Works and Operations, Canada 150 banners. Questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Malloy?
I stated to Ben already, I think these are great, and hopefully we can get them as soon as possible and get them up right away. But I do think it's important. I think it would be nice if you had one of the 150 banners in each of the hamlets or in the major areas, because, you know, believe it or not, there's a lot of people don't know why we're doing this still, which is kind of amazing. But I think it'd be nice to have at least one 150 banner, and the rest would be just the Canadian flag would be quite suitable. So that would be my recommendation, Ben, that one of the Canada 150 banners go in each of the hamlets, or wherever else here in town. I'm not sure if you want to pick some spots here, but...
So are you making that motion? Okay. Councillor Beach?
I agree with Councillor Malloy that if you have one in each of the hamlets, and then just the Canada Day flags, you know, if we were buying any of the 150 flags even for the town, have a few but not too many. I'd rather see more Canada Day flags, because that's going to be longer lasting, money more well spent. Not that I'm trying to take away from 150, I'm not, but it's longevity for the dollar.
Mayor O'Connor?
I'm not sure where the new brackets are coming in. Can you explain that to me, Ben, please?
Well, if you want to add any flags in the hamlet, you need the brackets as well.
Okay, so...
Or you can just not put up one of the Canadian banners, the normal ones.
Okay,
you need one or the other.
How many, we've got 7 hamlets, and you're saying there's 17 brackets in those 7 hamlets. So, there's 2 plus in a couple.
It's more than that, though. There's 5 in Zephyr. Leasdale has probably 4. Yeah, I'm not sure on the north side and south side. Sanford has, I think, 4. Did someone go and actually count them, Ben? I thought my number was much higher than that. That's my question. You got 17.
I got my number from the people that put them up, so I would have thought it would have been pretty accurate.
I think there's old banner, hardware stuff.
Okay, we'll just run around. Maybe you can take care of your and let Ben know for sure what's there, and I'll do the same with mine.
Okay, and you can count Goodwood's, and is there anything in Coppins?
Coppins and Shiloh has banner hardware.
Goodwood, and let Ben know. Now, if there's old hardware on the poles, will it take these flags or not?
Yeah, I believe most of them are just an upper arm, and then they tie them to the bottom
Okay.
corner to the pole.
Okay. So I think what we need to do is, we're all supporting it, I believe, if I hear correctly. But councillors will get back to Ben ASAP for the number in the hamlets. And we're going to put, if we don't buy new brackets, if we don't need new brackets, then we just need the banners. And we'll put a banner or banners, okay, whether it be the 150 or the Canada flag, in all our hamlets. So I'm going to say that for whatever number of brackets we have, we purchase banners. Okay, and I don't think this is going to be a lot of money, and that the money come from the roads budget.
Councillor Hyatt?
My question was answered in that discussion, so.
All right, anybody else? No, we have a motion on the floor.
Councillor Malloy, and what I have is that committee approved one Canada Day banner to go in each of the 7 hamlets, and the remaining banners be Canada Day flags.
Canada flags.
Yes, sorry, Canada Day, sorry. So Canada flags, and the money come from the roads budget.
So, one Canada, 150, and the rest Canada flags. Fine, yep.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Carried. Next item, report PWO 2717 of Ben Kester, Director of Public Works and Operations, resurface club sign at Electric Light Pond. Councillor Malloy.
I'll just move the recommendation. Yeah, it got destroyed, get rid of it.
Okay, Councillor Hyatt?
I know we've had this discussion in the past, Ben. Who owns that sign? Is it the township?
We had a look at it, and it's on township property, so.
There was talk a few years ago that the BIA owned it, or a former BIA owned it, I don't know. I'm sure they want to get rid of it too, but...
There's not much left of it.
Yeah, if they want to fix it.
Yeah, well, we sort of discussed it at BIA, and I think they were wondering who owned it either, so nobody had come up with a definitive answer, so... Anyway, I'll support the recommendation.
Ingrid?
Yeah, the top of that sign, before it got demolished, actually did say the Uxbridge PIA. It had their logo inside of the header of the sign. Not anymore, though.
All right, we have a Councillor Brett.
Yeah, just a question. Are the pillars completely destroyed, or just the sign in the middle?
Just the sign in the middle.
Okay, I'm just, those pillars would cost, in today's dollars, those would be very expensive to put in. It looks like the brick might even be reclaimed brick from something, just from looking at the picture. I'm just wondering, the sign in the middle is going to be like maybe $1,000. It wouldn't be that expensive. Are we sure we want to destroy $20,000 worth of brick for a $1,000 sign?
There's not $20,000 worth of bricks there.
No, with the footings and stuff?
It cost me $7,000 to replace that island feature at Campbell Drive.
One there, right at the end.
Rebricked it all.
Okay. All right, Councillor Malloy?
I'd just like to add, we already have a new service club sign.
Yeah.
So that sign was really redundant anyway, under the trees, couldn't see it.
It was very hard to see, it was down in the hole.
I guess the tree's gone now, so it doesn't matter, but...
Yeah, you can see the spot. All right, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Carried. Any unfinished business? Because we've already done that next committee, we've moved that forward. Any unfinished business? Other business? We have a petition regarding a request for the termination of a planned sidewalk in Buzzette Court. Motion?
Received for information.
All right, all in favor? Carried. Any questions from the press? No. Greg, anything? No? Okay. All right, I will pass this to Planning and Economic Development Committee and Councillor Hyatt.
Thank you. I'll call to order Planning and Economic Development Committee, correspondence 88. This is from the region on the OBC and regional activities. Any questions? Motion to receive by Councillor Ballinger. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Any unfinished business? Any other business? I can't believe it. I got off free today. Yeah, well, it's easy. I will adjourn planning and pass to Mayor O'Connor for admin.
Thank you. Correspondence 89, Region of Durham Re-Accessibility Award nominations.
Are there any
Oh,
questions?
sorry. Okay, so Region of Durham Re-Accessibility Award nominations. I'm suggesting that we look at anything that we have done, but we should also be sending it to the BIA and maybe the Chamber of Commerce for anything that the business people have done that we're not aware of. And the Accessibility Committee, yes. Okay, making that motion,
Sure,
Council.
I'll make that motion, and then just one to note, Access Chiropractic, they moved from kind of a side split office to one that's almost fully accessible.
Yeah.
So that might be one business to consider.
Okay, great. All those in favor? Carried. Autism Ontario, Durham Region, read the 4th Annual Autism Awareness, Sunday, May the 7th, at the Hayden Shore, Park in Whitby. Received? Yep. All those in favor? Carried. Tammy Brandenburg, re-request for permission use property behind 18 Wheeler Court to access basement leak in her home. Councillor.
I just said one thing. I think, yeah, of course, that's the only way she can get, or they can get in there, so that's fine. I just, wonder what we normally do. Would we ask them to make sure there's some sort of deposit so they can go back and repair
Yes.
everything? You've got that?
Damage deposit.
That's all, that's my question. Thank you.
Okay. So the motion is? Okay, and then a damage deposit?
I'll move to support the request and that a damage deposit be, required. I guess you do some sort of an agreement. Do we do an agreement with them, Debbie, I presume? Okay, and so an agreement be drafted.
Thank you. All those in favor? Carried. Sorry?
There was
Yeah.
a second part, excuse me, to the letter talking about leaky basements or something to that effect. And I know before the fire hall construction started, Ben had, I think, all these properties inspected to make sure that there was no previous damage.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry he's not here right now, but are they attributing the fire hall construction to the leak they're having in the basement? Because that
Not
could be
that
a
I'm
whole...
aware of.
Well, I would read it that way, but maybe I'm reading it wrong.
They're asking the question, right?
Yeah,
I would refer that back to Ben, maybe he can make a comment on it.
yeah.
Okay,
He has all the stats, so.
all right, thank you.
Okay, so we'll just, we'll add that to the motion, okay? Any unfinished business? Other business, College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario Re-Council Award 2018. This is very tricky, because as I said to, Councillor Ballinger this morning, that, you know, all of our all of our, doctors, are, pardon? Okay, lift it from the table. Councillor Malloy, all those in favor? Carried. This is very, tricky, because all of our doctors, do outstanding work, and they've all saved lives and that sort of thing. I don't know how you recognize one over the other. Councillor Malloy, or Hyatt, sorry.
I think there's some confusion. I mean, when this came forward last year, we put forward a couple of local physicians, and what it is the council of the doctors. It's the physicians' council. It's not a council award, meaning our council. So they don't really state that in the actual brochure, other than if you read between the lines. It's quite a convoluted and long, extensive application. I'm not quite sure how they award it. They do tell you who they awarded it to, but there's no real rationale as to why they would receive it over anybody else. So I'm willing to leave it open if any members of council wish to nominate. Councillor Malloy and I put forward quite a thorough application, I guess if you could say, last year, and we were turned down, unfortunately. So I'm going to leave it up to council, but just to avoid that confusion of what the council means, it's their council, not ours, just so that you know.
Okay, Councillor Malloy? Oh, okay. So do you want to just receive this for information? Okay, receive for information. Well, I'm still confused, because does the council put forth a name? Does
As far
College
as
of
I understand
Physicians
it,
and
yeah.
Surgeons of Ontario Re-Council Award? Like, are they putting, their council putting names forward?
It's the CIPSO council, it's not this council.
Yeah, exactly.
So we put forward the nominee with the whole package, and then
And they recommend.
They recommend,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Questions of the press? None? None? Well, don't drown when you go outside. Yeah. We have a meeting at, some of us anyway, at 1:30. Okay? Okay. We have an announcement.
I'd just like to introduce our new summer student, Greg Brooks, who's going to be working in the clerk's department, helping us out for the summer. I know he's met some of the counselors already today, but if anyone wants to just go and introduce yourself and say hello to Greg, that'd be great.
Great, welcome. Okay, sorry? Okay. I know. Scary, isn't it, Roger? Adjournment by